Hey everybody, this is Grace, and I just made a video. At the end of it, I said I was going to do this part to it. It's a series kind of thing, and this involves people who are, some call them sheeple. They have the herd mentality. I would say more of a collective narcissism, and the ones who are drawn into it, the innocent ones. They're drawn into for whatever reason, and however they were, and they're innocent to anything on the outside. Now, many of us, as I mentioned in that video, many of us who have been victims of, say, narcissistic abuse, toxic people, however it was abusive, and we were drawn in and not seeing them for their true colors until later on. Now, I see this as the collective narcissism can happen in that one also. People are drawn in and they don't see the outside of it for various reasons. Okay, they could be types who are, they don't want to watch, like news and stuff like that and think for themselves. They weren't taught to think for themselves. There's peer pressure. Many of them just haven't seen outside of that. They don't get that kind of information. They can be that isolated, and especially like if they're not interested in watching news or reading papers, or something online. I don't even know how many people still get newspapers these days, but for whatever reason, and they don't hear any alternative viewpoints on anything, so they don't have anything to compare and contrast. Okay, to think through and to make up their own minds. Okay, and some of the things that they just don't ever hear. And I had written some notes and made it was about this coronavirus, and this was, I don't know, a week or two ago. I don't remember when I made these notes about what I wanted to talk about. Okay, and many of them, what they wind up believing in are these, what some people call conspiracy theories. These are people who don't, what they're taught is that these are people who don't believe in the scientists. They don't believe in government. They believe that everybody's out to, kind of a mentality of basically that everybody's out to get them. They don't, there's some, main people are feeding them this. And because they have an agenda, or plural. And they believe this because that's basically, like I was saying, that's all they ever hear. Such as this, with this coronavirus and everything, you hear some people say that the numbers, we hear a lot from like the scientists. They say the numbers are actually higher to, how many cases there are, how many deaths. That the numbers are actually higher than what you see reported on the, on the news and in the news. But some of them, the ones that are on the line of conspiracy theorists, they're teaching people, putting it out there that the numbers are actually lower. Okay, now they have an agenda, plural, actually, for that, and that's to go and reopen the economy, go quickly, to get them back to work, not caring. It's all about money, when greed is involved, money is involved, yeah. But do they ever hear? The thing is, those who are in this, the collective narcissism and the group narcissism, whatever it is that keeps them there, do they ever hear that other side, that the numbers are actually higher? See what I'm saying? But they only hear one, one agenda. So they're not going to hear, like if they're watching, if they say they do watch a news, channel, and that it only tells them what the people, that news, that media wants them to hear. They only tell them, they cherry pick. And so that they're never really hearing outside of it. Yeah, let me see, I'm going to look at my notes here again. That they learn this whole herd mentality, this collective narcissism. They were taught this from probably very young, to follow only that, like their mom and dad told them, you only pay attention to these people, don't pay attention to the left, or don't pay attention to the right. Only, only listened to what their parents thought they should listen to, only believe in what their parents thought they should believe in, and then they weren't taught you can think for yourself and you can have your own opinions, and you don't have to follow them just because they're your parents. You see, and they're not. I mean, too many of them, that's what they're taught from very young. All right, so back to this about the media, okay, and what cherry picking, and I mean, it can be, like I said, it doesn't have to be, the left or the right or far left, far right, whatever. No, it can be, and like the media tries to twist it. I don't really like it. I want to. I've mentioned that last video. I'm an independent. I want to hear. I want to hear it straight from the horse's mouth, plural, mouths, and make up my own mind. I don't need anybody to tell me how to think. I don't want anybody to tell me how to think, and so I don't like the people who are commentaries or whatever they call these days, and I don't want to hear their views. I want to make up my own mind on it, and because I do see how any of them, not all of them, I don't know all of them, but many of them, that I have seen, they cherry pick. They do the whole thing of spinning it in the way that they want it to be spun, the way they want people to. Yeah, and I understand why. Nobody needs to tell me. But, yeah, I don't care for that. I want truth. I want facts. Okay? I want to make up my own mind. And I do make up my own mind. And here was one example one day. I heard this. I go through the channels. I'd listen to more than one side. And, I'd heard that, saw it straight from the horse's mouth, that Cuomo said that this was, like I said, probably 2 or 3 weeks ago, who knows. But Cuomo had said that he's not going to run for the presidency. Okay. And I think that would be late. But anyway, so he said he's not. So this other news network wants to put him down because they have their agenda and such, they brought that up, that he's really the one that's going to run for the presidency. And now Cuomo had said he's not, but they twisted around. They said, well, can he even do that? And then they twist it more and spin it more. And I'm like, really? No, they were lying. They were making up stories. And would that side that would be listening to them, that would be more into listening to them, the collective group, would they ever know anything outside of it? Would they have ever listened to Cuomo to see what Cuomo said? You see what I'm saying? So all they know is what they're watching or what they're hearing other people. Then that would spread like weeds, and other people that, in their group would say, listen to this. And you see, okay, so that happens. And like I say, it doesn't have to be one side, way on that side or the other side, whatever. Okay, looking back at my notes, I mentioned something about that most people don't think it's right time to stop it. Yeah, the whole stay at home, that at the time that I wrote these, they had, I don't know what it is today, but they had polls and, all that kind of thing about, do people think it's time to open up the economy and, people go back to work? And that most people said no. They didn't think that it was time. Now, would people who were taught that yes, everybody thinks they should go back to work, but just because they want to go back to work, or their group wants to go back to work, that's all they're going to hear. They're not going to, the chances are, in all this, they're not going to hear that many people are saying no, it's not time. They just won't hear that other side. Okay, and I'm going to go through these notes. Do they know that food banks exist? Are they taught that? Or are they taught more like extreme? If you don't go back to work, you're going to starve. There's no way to get any relief. Why are they being taught not to think, okay, until they can go back to work, and it's safe to go back to work? There is, if they were working before, they could be getting unemployment, And why aren't they taught that unemployment is not the government's money, it's their money. It's the people's money. It's not the government's, it's the people's. Why are they taught only that getting getting unemployment is a bad thing? Okay, I know I was taught that. Oh, I know I was taught that. That any kind of help, like they call it welfare, any kind of that was bad. It was such a horrible thing. This is not the government's money. This is our money. And if you didn't pay into it, there's a good chance somebody in your family paid into it. And for this kind of reason, okay, for these reasons, in cases, like emergency. So no, there's nothing bad about it. But why are they being taught that it is? Think about it. Why? Some of the people that are teaching them these things are not their friends. They might be their enemies. Think really about that. And some other things I've mentioned before that I had seen like on this group was like that, like the enemies, some people that are telling these things are their enemies, that really are their enemies. Things like, there was for a while something going around that you can sign this thing saying, I don't want to be treated for COVID-19 if I'm ever hospitalized. And they were taught that this was a good thing. Along the line of that, some of it was along the line of, you don't accept welfare. Okay, now who would teach them that? Who would tell them that? Yeah, the kind that I mentioned before, that said, yeah, y'all go back to work. It's just thinning the herd mentality. Yeah, these are not good people. And let's see. Read my notes. Okay, also I wrote that, that going back to work, at that time, and even now, in some instances, people go back to work, they, and then the boss, they open up the boss is opening up whatever it is, again, the company, whatever it is, and they get their employees back, and then they realize that customers or consumers, whatever it is, they're not coming back like they expected, and they start firing people and laying people off or firing them. Okay, so whatever they went through to already to get their unemployment or whatever, how is it going to affect their unemployment compensation? What kind of troubles is it going to bring about? You see, think about that. But let's see what else. Yeah, and some of the customers would say, okay, like the customers that think it's too early for people to go back to work, and they see that this business or that business is going, is opening up, and they think that that's going to make be a problem for, spreading the coronavirus around again, even more, not again, but still going on, but even more. These customers say, I'm not going to, shop there or whatever, not shop, but, whatever it is, whatever kind of business, they're not going to do that anymore. They're not going to be customers there anymore because they have strong views on this. Yeah, so does this side ever hear that? Do they ever hear that that's a possibility? Okay, are they ever informed that, hey, you can do this, but this might be the result. Okay, the result might not be that great. Okay, yeah, this video is a little bit different than what I usually do, but I'm going through these notes. And another thing that, like the whole thing about don't accept this and don't accept that, don't get on unemployment, don't get on welfare, don't get on, don't get on, don't go to food banks, whatever, don't take any charity. Some of the people, they're taught this, and they're also taught that you have to have pride in yourself, and that if you accepting these, you don't have pride. Well, these same people are usually the ones who are saying, not all of them, and it's not all of them that say this or that, but that they're, like real Christians. Well, what does the Bible say about pride? And let's see what else I wrote. Yeah, I've mentioned that before about the story that some people know about God sending the boat around 3 times. Yeah, if you haven't heard it, look it up. Yeah, but that's what it makes me think of. But like I'm saying, in all of this, people Some people, they don't, do they ever hear any of this? Do they ever get that alternative viewpoint? Can they ever break out of that and get into where things are healthy for them? It's not all conspiracy theories. It's instead, it's based on science. It's based on truth. It's based on fact, not just what somebody has made up in their mind to have a herd. Sheeple, as some call it, a herd. Just to follow them and believe blindly in them, and not to think for themselves. So, anyway. Okay. Now, from there, I'm going to do another video eventually, I think. I don't know if I'll have them in the exact order, as I say in each video, at the end of each video. But I've mentioned before that I was raised by both of my parents. Me and my siblings and my parents all lived in the same house. All the way growing up. And one of my parents, my mother, she was a conspiracy theorist. She really was. Some people think that it just started recently. More, no. It was back then. She was also into, any kind of paranormal. She believed in ghosts, and she was actually a shut-in also because I truly think she had agoraphobia. And I know she had extreme anxiety. She didn't want to go anywhere, do anything. I do think she suffered from agoraphobia. But because, she was such a, conspiracy theorist and into so many things, alternative, especially back then, ways of thinking. Now, me, I went to, attended university, earned my degrees in psychology and sociology, and I focused quite a bit on research. In fact, my thesis was me developing a research methodology. So, and turned it to a professional paper. But yeah, that was a long time ago, and some of the things I've forgotten. But I have mentioned that I do want to. I know how some conspiracy theorists think. I had enough. I know one person, believe me, one person is not going to make you know all, just because you hear it from one person. But I do want to do one about a conspiracy theory. Why? To show that some of the conspiracy theorists, they're taught to think this way, and what way to focus on it, even though they're like against scientists and against the government. It's often saying the government's lying to them. But, yeah, some of them, they're taught which way to think about that. Like the government, is against them, but which government? You see what I'm saying? Yeah. And so I want to do that in a video. And like I said, I don't know if it'll be the next one or not. But, yeah, and then I got a couple more. I want to do, a few more maybe, on this topic. I have to look at my notes, like I said. So, we'll see what happens. And I'm going to wrap this one up. I'll talk to you on another video.